Hello and welcome into another WKYT. I'm not going to say Facebook. I'm not supposed to say Facebook.
You're not.
Friday.
What are you supposed to say?
It is a Sports Friday right here on WKYT, both on Facebook Live and the podcast.
Okay.
Lee K. Howard along with Dave Baker. We don't have football to talk about in terms of games, but we have some big football news to talk about. Also some basketball, both women's and men's, and some breaking soccer news we'll get to here in just a little bit. But Buzz, I think the big story, at least yesterday, was Eddie Gran, the offensive coordinator at UK, deciding to stay with the Wildcats, turning down the offer from Georgia. That kind of speaks to kind of where the program is at this point.
It kind of does. I think it kind of speaks to the life of an assistant college football coach or a coordinator as well. I first met Eddie Gran probably back in the 80s when he was Tommy Tuberville's running backs coach down at Auburn, and he had Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams, and so he had a more open offense when he was with Tubbs up at Cincinnati. But Kirby Smart first became I started talking seriously about Eddie Gran back during the season when they were getting ready to play Kentucky. He said that Eddie was, in fact, the most physical offensive coordinator in the league. And, of course, Kirby Smart, having played at Georgia, having been a coordinator for Nick Saban, believes in that kind of attack. And so I think the way that Eddie used his running backs, obviously they've got a much better quarterback situation, at least right now down at Georgia. So I think the offer was probably over $1.1 million, but the people I talked to yesterday afternoon said they never felt like it was a possibility that he would leave. This staff is going to get rewarded for what they did. And, you know, Eddie's got an agent, and then you got legal people at UK, and so you just got to get it worked out. And so then he made it official probably a couple hours after that news broke. And it's great news for Mark Stoops and the continuity of that program.
Absolutely. I think you just hit on the continuity of keeping that staff together for another year. Of course, Eddie's the third offensive coordinator that Mark has had since Neil Brown, Shannon Dawson, and now Eddie Gran. But I thought one of the more interesting things, Buzz, kind of seeing the tweets of other people not associated with Kentucky yesterday, was just how respected outside of Kentucky, just around the league and around the country, that Eddie Gran is in the minds of other people.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the job he's done, I mean, bears that out not only here but at other places. The other thing, too, was I think there was some concern that if he left, he would go ahead and take Darren Henshaw with him. And so that would have been something. And we talk about that staff continuity. It's been a big topic of conversation this week. I mean, especially because of what happened in the national championship game. You look at Clemson, and Dabo Swinney's really had no turnover in his staff.
Right.
And Nick Saban has dealt with it each and every year. He's dealt with it this week, where he had one offensive coordinator leave to become a head coach, had another guy from the offensive staff leave to become an offensive coordinator. So it's been kind of a revolving door there for him, and I think it caught up with him a little bit in the national championship game.
And it's always a good thing when other programs are coming after either your head coach or your coordinators, even if it's your quality control coach. It just means that they're doing something right.
That's right. And it means that other folks have seen what you're in fact doing, and they want it replicated to their place.
And as far as the offense goes, for Terry Wilson, for Lynn Bowden, for a lot of those guys, that is big to have him back, and he, of course, knows what they have in the cupboard, and apparently the cupboard's not bare, else he would have probably found somewhere else to go as well. All right, so that's football, and if you have any questions, by the way, and you're watching right now as we speak on Facebook Live, be sure to hit us up, and we might get to a few of your questions, or you can just let us know where you're watching from. We've got some people from Barry, from Paris, Kentucky, from Pikeville, all over the place. So just let us know where you're watching right now. Let's get to some basketball. Before we get to the men, let's talk about the women, because last night the women go down to Rocky Top and come away with, it was just a 2-point win over the Vols, but it was a much more dominating win for the Wildcats over Tennessee last night at 2 points in the game, once in the first half and once in the second half, led by 17. That is a huge program win, first time since 2014.
It really was a big night for women's basketball overall, because you had number 2 Louisville going to number 1 Notre Dame, and then you had that top 20 matchup between Kentucky and Tennessee. And regardless of what people say and what's happened recently, I mean, in terms of reputation and in terms of program prestige, Tennessee is still that gold standard.
Right.
And, of course, Matthew Mitchell started out his career down there, doing some work, doing some camps for Pat Summitt, and certainly she was influential on his career. And it's just a tough place to win. And as you said, they not only went down there and won, they dominated. I mean, it was a close game at the end. You knew Tennessee was going to make a run, but I mean, Kentucky led wire to wire.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why it did come down to the end, of course, was if you didn't watch the game, just before halftime, the starting point guard, Taylor Murray, went down with an injury, did not return in the second half. Ryan Howard, who's been a sensational freshman, one of the best in the country, and by the way, missed Tennessee basketball last year, somehow
Right.
got out of that state. And then, of course, Macy Morris, who had 27 points, huge game, but both Howard and Morris fouled out of the game late in the game. And the Wildcats really had to stumble down the stretch to find some offense. And after the game, Matthew Mitchell talked about the way that his team was able to pull it out and come together in the end.
I thought we really stuck together tonight in tremendous adversity. We were all concerned there at halftime about Taylor, and then we didn't have her back, and she's such a big part of what we do. And just made tough plays, kept her poised, and able to make one more play than Tennessee. So, I would characterize it as just sticking together and believing. And we talked about confidence before the game, and I think we were able to maintain our confidence through really difficult periods in the game.
Yeah, big win for them. By the way, Winchester, Jamestown, Harlan, Carlisle from all over the place watching right now. But
I love that.
Yeah, big win for the women, and they play Ole Miss here at Kentucky here in Lexington on Sunday.
You got to have depth, and certainly Ryan Howard and what she's done, and the multiple times that she's now won SEC Freshman of the Week. But Jada Roper hit some incredible shots down the stretch last night when she was called upon to step in and step up. And it sounds like that old coaching cliche, but that's exactly what happened last night.
All right, so would you call the women's basketball team empowered? That's of course
willing passers.
Yeah, willing passers.
Willing passers.
Did they have the will to win after a big win like that last night? Of course, we're transitioning now to the men's team, and the Wildcats coming off the win over Texas A&M.
Right.
At times in that game, it was pretty. To start the first and the start of the second half, it was not pretty.
Sure.
And somehow they got the win there at the end over a team that they probably should have beat. But Calipari keeps to bang that drum, and that's kind of his new phrase this year, talking about being willing passers, but also talking about being a player-driven team, not coach-driven team.
Right, and he's touched on that before. It's player-driven, it's empowered. He wants guys out on a court to do as much coaching, not X's and O's wise, but effort, intensity, things like that. Get the ball to so-and-so. Hey, you get over here in this position. And I think it frustrates people sometimes, but I think it's at the essence what he's all about in terms of he wants guys to come here and do everything he can to get them ready for the next level. And he believes if he does that, it'll also lead to championship basketball here. So instead of micromanaging and calling all these sets and everything, typically what he'll do is he'll talk about, okay, if you're over practice or something, it'll be like, all right, go here, I want you to go to the nail, I want you to come down the elbow, do a zipper cut, and from there, just play basketball. And it always ends with just play basketball. And that's what he wants those guys to do.
And of course, if he had a veteran team with guys who had played years together, that would be easier. But of course, he knows this is something that he has to go through every year.
Yes.
And he wants everybody to be patient, and himself included. He's got to be patient with what he's trying to teach these guys. But I think they make strides and they make steps. But here's Cal after the game talking about his team not quite empowered just yet.
Anticipates, and he does get his hands on balls. He anticipates. So he's not going to – we have guys that when their man catches it, they start playing. He's playing before his man catches it, and if he sees an opportunity to go after a ball, he does. If he sees an opportunity to deny his man the ball, his man doesn't get the ball.
All right, we actually led you into the wrong soundbite there. He was, of course, talking about Ashton Hagans and the way
He's been pretty good, right?
Yeah, not too bad. The way he anticipates and plays on defense. We knew he could be a defensive player, and the other night he showed his offense as well.
He really did, and I think he's given kind of a charge. And again, everybody wishes Quade Green nothing but the best. But that old phrase about addition by subtraction,
yes.
I think you've got some guys that maybe aren't looking over their shoulder as much anymore to be concerned about when they're coming out. And Hagans has just really set a tone, and what he has done defensively has led to good things happening on offense, whether it be in transition or after they get down and get set up.
And it seems like in years past, Buzz, we've seen players, and last year was a perfect example, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I looked up, it was January the 9th of last year. In that A&M game was his first game to make a start at point guard for the Wildcats, and he went from the guy who was at the end of the bench to the guy who was the lottery pick, from nobody to somebody in that short amount of time. Now, Hagans has been starting for the Wildcats for a month or so now.
Right, absolutely.
But he is, it seems, I'm not saying he's going to be a lottery pick, but he's on a trajectory kind of like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 3 games in a row now, he's topped his season high scoring, and he's really becoming kind of a go-to guy.
It's like that whole thing, like all these 5-star rankings and everything. They're all good and everything, right?
Right.
But it's like, where are you at the end of the year? I mean, everybody, it's great to be the preseason number one, but seriously, where are you at the end of the season? And I think with I don't know if there's one exception or not, but the one thing I think that has happened consistently is that each and every year, Cal's teams, for the vast majority of the time, have been better at the end of the year than they were at the beginning of the year. And that's what you're looking for from a coach and from a program and from players.
And you touched on the quad A green subtraction. The other guy who's really benefited from that, at least recently, is Jamal Baker. I mean,
right.
He's come in and played some meaningful minutes.
He has. The first thing he had to do was get himself healthy. And then he had to get his confidence back. And then when Cal rolled him out there, and it's been kind of the same thing with Nick Richards. Okay, you earn your minutes of practice. I'm going to roll you out there. But when I roll you out there, you better play hard and you better be able to produce, or else somebody else is going to get those minutes.
All right, let's go back to Cal, and this time we'll hear from him talking about being empowered and getting his team to where he wants them at this point in the season.
They're not empowered yet, let's just say that. At some point, if this team's going to be what I believe they can be, they could be one of those teams, they have to be empowered. That means that I shouldn't even talk about effort and intensity and fight. Shouldn't even come out of my mouth, not once. And there should be times they huddle and talk. Instead of me telling a guy, why would you break off that play? They grab him and say, why did you do that? Today I like the fact that EJ got after one of the guys and said, pass the ball, man. Why are you being selfish? They need to. If they have to have it all from me, I don't want to do it. I don't have fun doing that. I have fun cheering. But the other side of it is we got to win, which means I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get these guys over the finish line. Today I was like dragging, literally dragging. I'm exhausted right now.
Well, let's hope he's had some rest because they've got another game tomorrow night. It's a late one against Vandy, and this is a team, Buzz, I think the Wildcats should beat, but of course it's Vandy, and they can give the Wildcats a game. But tomorrow night, late tip, like I said, 8:30 on the SEC network, and a chance to go up 2-1 in the conference standings.
Yeah, and they're looking for taking on a Vanderbilt team who's in a similar situation, a team that came in here and played a really good game against Kentucky a season ago, I believe it was, since Drew has certainly been there. And it's funny, Cal talks, and you hear him talk in those places. He's always talking to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just an answer. It's an answer with a purpose. And earlier this week, he talked about, guys, what was the phrase he used? It wasn't junk or noise, but, you got to get rid of the clutter.
Clutter.
Got to get rid of the clutter. And what he was talking about is the people that are around all these players that are saying, man, dude, you got to get more shots. You got to create your own if you want people to look at you, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so I'm sure there have been some people in the clutter group now that have been chirping about Cal getting on people and everything. And right there, he was basically saying, I don't want to do this.
Right.
But this is what I got to do now. So if unnamed so-and-so does this, I won't have to do this.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think you're right. Vandy, a team that the other night, Wednesday night, I watched some of the game with Georgia.
Yep.
They ended up losing by 20, but the crazy thing was it was a 1-point, 2-point game all the way to the very end, and then Georgia ended the game on an 18-2 run or something ridiculous like that. So the actual final score looked a lot bigger of a spread than the actual game was.
And I'm not going to go into Cal speak, but what will happen now, not that anybody would wager anything, but if you do wager.
But if you are in that sort of thing.
If you are into that sort of thing for a drink or something like that, a soft drink, look at teams, what they do ahead of Kentucky, and look at what they do after they play Kentucky. And somebody is either trying to recover from having a good effort or losing to Kentucky, or somebody is looking ahead to going into Rupp Arena and playing a game like that. And I think maybe that's what happened to Vandy the other night. And I would expect them to play much better tomorrow night. Although you know this from everything you've covered as well, there is nothing more difficult in sports. So they're going to probably get on a bus. They'll come here and shoot tonight.
That's right.
And then they won't have anything to do till 8:30 tomorrow night. It is incredibly difficult.
All day long.
Right. I mean, seriously. I mean, you're in your hotel room. It's not like, you can go get you can come and get some shots up or everything, but there's just nothing to do. Yeah. And if it's snowing tomorrow, there's really going to be nothing to do.
It apparently is going to be snowing
Right,
tomorrow.
right. So, you just walk around the hotel. And so how do teams react to that? Veteran teams usually handle it pretty well. Younger teams like Vandy, we'll have to see.
Well, you can bet they'll definitely be up for that game tomorrow night against the Wildcats. All right, we're going to end this with some soccer news and some breaking soccer news.
Go!
And I treat you as kind of the authority on UK soccer at this point. I mean, you have been leading the J.J. Williams bandwagon, so I'll let you take it from here.
Well, he's led it because he played so well. But, of course, this time last week, Williams was one of the 3 finalists for the Mac Herman Award, which is the top college soccer player. And right after that, he posted a video on social media saying that that he was turning pro with 1 season left. What they have is they have the combine for Major League Soccer, and it allows players at that to get feedback on what they think. They thought he would be a top 20 pick in the MLS draft. They call it the Super Draft. Took place. It's still actually going on in Chicago
as we speak,
right now. And so just a little while ago, 18th pick, the Columbus Crew. And there, in fact, is J.J. Williams. And it's really interesting.
Awesome.
All the analysts on the deal thought that Cincinnati FC might get him. This is the first year they're going to have a club, so they thought he would attract fans and things like that. But they traded a pick down. And if you remember, Columbus was all set to move to Austin, Texas, until Jimmy Haslam, who's the owner of the Cleveland Browns, came in, pumped some more money into Columbus, and said, we're keeping this franchise here. So obviously a lot of folks up there, Kentucky played Ohio State this year, and a lot of folks familiar with J.J. Williams and what he can do and the record-setting year he had for the Wildcats. And so I don't know what anybody makes in something like this, right? At the 18th pick of the
That's got to
draft.
be pretty good.
I mean, congrats. And
He's got to be up there in Buzz Baker money at this point.
Stop it. All the years I've been around, this is the first time Aaron Gilliland was selected on the women's side, right? I don't know that there's ever been a UK male since I've been here, so congratulations to J.J. Williams.
Yeah, that's huge. And like you said, you thought maybe Cincinnati, a regional pick, would take him, but Columbus is not really that far away either.
No, a little 3-hour drive. Be a good road trip for some fans here in Lexington.
And I know you'll keep up with it.
Come on, let's go.
Give us the J.J. Williams.
Let's go.
Update.
We'll get Bailey to drive the van.
Yeah, as soon as he's over there, soon as the
He
snow
loves
clears,
a road trip.
He does.
He'll have one of those little things on top spinning around to give us all the readings.
Yeah, I pictured
that.
him more like Clark Griswold leading our road trip. Yeah. Well, we want to thank all of you for joining us once again on this Friday WKYT Sports Extra on both Facebook Live and
he got it.
I got
Come
it.
on.
Second time. And
You
the
can't-
podcast.
you can't
We'll
stop
try to
it.
do this every Friday. So
Yes.
thanks for tuning in and thanks for interacting with us, and have a great rest of your weekend.